Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and today we're going to talk about lock-in molars and why you should never, ever, ever lock your molars especially on Invisalign, on ClearCorrect, on really any aligner system. And I know this is going to blow your mind and it's just totally counterintuitive, but let me explain from my 20 years experience why I don't recommend locking molars. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it as long as you know what can happen. It can actually make things worse. And I know you're thinking, oh, well, Molus or Galler and some of these other ones, they lock molars. That's great. I see these cases every day, all day long for the past 20 years I've been doing this, not Molus and Galler, but I've been seeing Invisalign cases and I see what happens when you lock molars. So for some reason it makes things worse. And sometimes people lock molars because it's a GO case or it's a Molus case or it's a Galler case and that's just the default and they're thinking, oh, I'm only moving front teeth. What can go wrong? Lots of things can go wrong. First of all, even though you locked molars, if you have anterior interferences, you can get a posterior open bite, which can make your case go way longer. It might have been a 10 or a 15 or a 20 aligner case. Well, now it's an 80 because we have to fix it. And if you did some type of light or GO or assist or one of these ones where it doesn't have all the features or all the links or all the refinements that we need or all the duration that we need in order to fix it, you're gonna pay twice. You're gonna pay once and then you're gonna pay again a lot more than you would have you just done comprehensive and done it right to begin with. And this is where I just find it's just so much more predictable to keep your molars unlocked. It doesn't mean that we have to actively go out of our way to move them, but at least they're not static, they're dynamic. So if needed, we can move them. Now remember, I realize it's not making sense to you guys. And I don't even know if I can fully explain it, but even though we locked it, and even though it started with occlusion to begin with, and even if there's not anterior interferences, a lot of times we get this. We get a posterior open bite, even though you locked them. And you guys go, well, I don't understand how this happened. I locked them. Well, it just happens because you have plastic that's over the top of the teeth. And what the software and the AI does not take into account yet, I'm not saying they're not planning on doing this. I'm not saying it's not in the pipeline. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, is when there's so many variables you're not even considering. You guys are thinking that you're moving teeth in a vacuum. And just because you told something not to do something, it doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. Ooh, that was a lot of knots. Sorry for the double entendre. But when you have plastic covering the whole teeth and a lot of other forces, remember for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So think about all the other forces you have going on. You have chewing forces, you have biting forces, you have clenching forces, you have bruxism forces. These forces are happening 24 hours a day, some harder in some patients than in others. So they're tap, they're talking, they're grinding, they're clenching, they're stressed, they're grinding teeth at night. And what can happen is the pressure from that plastic can cause intrusion of a tooth. Even though if you didn't ask for it, it can still happen. And you're gonna lose your contact. And what you can't do is you can't leave your patient at the end of treatment with a posterior open bite, with an unbalanced bite, with more forces on one side than the other side. Weird things will happen to the jaw joints, to the bite, to canting of the bite. You could actually cause damage to the patient permanently. And I've seen it. I've seen it so many times where maybe now the patient has straight teeth, but you totally messed up their joints and their bite. And now they need surgeries. And now they need OMT. And now this just got really expensive. And now this is a liability for you. Why? Because you locked molars. So don't lock molars. So that's all I've got to say. Or if you really want to lock molars, do a comprehensive case so we can unlock the molars later and use all the features that we need to fix things if things get messed up. And the other thing I want to bring up, and if you work with me on a la carte cases or a premium member or a comprehensive member, as a blanket on all my things. We've got a la carte, we've got premium, we've got concierge. Yes, I knew it started with a C. If you've worked with me over time, and some of my doctors I've worked with, goodness, we're going on 7 years now. It's insane. And I really appreciate your business, but you will see that I will tell you when you're doing these check-ins, whether you're checking in weekly with Invisalign Virtual or in-hand dental or using dental monitoring, or you're just doing your own in-house HIPAA compliant version, or the patient's just coming in every few weeks and you're checking them, I always tell you, use articulating paper, because I can't tell. Just because it looks like it's dragging doesn't mean the bite's not messed up. I can't tell if the bite's messed up. unless you are either taking scans regularly or if you are using articulating paper. And it always blows, I feel so bad sometimes because I get these doctors, they started with a GO or they started with a moderate or they did Galler and it looks really easy. Or maybe they're doing Invisalign 3, they're in one of those countries where they have Invisalign 3. And now all of a sudden, the bite got so much worse just during treatment because there was plastic over the teeth and because they locked molars. And now it's going to what was a 20 aligner case is now a 90 aligner case to fix it. And like I said, they're paying twice, or maybe they're not. Maybe they were smart and they did comprehensive, which is great. We can fix it. But you told the patient 4 months and now it's a 2 to 3 year plan to fix it because you did damage. And that's a liability for you. And sometimes there's cool patients and sometimes there's not cool patients. And this can become a very expensive headache. So moral of the story is don't use engines, in my opinion. Do not use moderate, in my opinion. There's a couple situations when I'll recommend using it. Do not use express, in my opinion. Do not use light, in my opinion. Do not use go, do not use assist, just use comprehensive. And occasionally moderates on certain cases. And very occasionally I'll say okay to light. It has to be a crazy easy case, no IPR, no major movements, anything like that. And don't lock molars. All right, so that was a long diatribe. Hopefully you get the idea. Do not lock molars. Thanks.